And welcome to the 15th episode of the New Podcast. My name is Steven, joined as always by producer extraordinaire Kelly. Let's get to it. Another big weekend of MMA. Huge weekend to come for WWE with TLC. Just this afternoon, we're doing a pre-TLC show. Huge week of wrestling as well with Raw and SmackDown. Christmas right around the corner. Love me some Christmas. Not for religious reasons, for time off reasons. To sleep in, get presents, eat your ass off. Let's start the show with some news. MMA breakdown news on the New Podcast Live. Well, that would be cool to do like a live show, eh? Yeah. Kelly? Yeah, you know what I mean? Like do I even thought like maybe doing like some kind of like a charity show or some shit like that. You know there's that Justin Wren, I think his name is. MMA fighter, heavyweight. He was on an Ultimate Fighter heavyweight show. Do you remember him? I cannot. He fought in Bellator a few times, but he he's got this big charity. We had like a vision. You ever heard of this? He saves, like, he helps out pygmies in Africa.
Oh, does he dig wells for them?
Yeah. No, he, builds houses and buys land for them and that type of thing.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure his name is Justin Wren. But I thought, hey, you know what I mean? That would be a cool thing to do, is do like a charity show. For something like that, and it would make sense for Justin Wren it is Justin Wren. As a MMA fighter, and he's got a good cause. He actually does have a good cause, but it's so weird. If you hear his story, it all came to him in a vision. He was like a kind of a hard alcoholic, I guess, and he had this vision, and he had it was like a dream to help all these pygmy people. Woke up, turned his life around, and devoted his whole life helping out these pygmies in Africa. I'm not making this shit up, people. Look it up. Well, that'd be pretty cool to do some kind of charity show. Yeah, fightfortheforgotten.org. Exactly, yeah. If you're out there listening to that and you didn't know about it, donate to that. This guy's the real deal. I hate charities for the fact that most of the time when you donate to a charity, it's actually not going to the person in need. It's going to someone's wage to distribute what excess funds they have. And I'm not about that. I'm about 100% donation stuff, and I think that's really what, it's Christmas time. It's Christmas time, but you want to find the right charity to donate, and I think this is one of those ones. And the dude's actually a pretty good fighter. He's on a 6-fight win streak. I think he fought for Bellator last. Yeah, he's fought for Bellator last 3 times. Not the stiffest competition, but still. But as far as I understand, he spends like a year at a time over there, actually, because I guess the pygmy people have had a rough go. They've just got like their land stolen from them, and people are just killing them because they think they have some kind of their body parts carry magical parts for potions and stuff like that. So they don't have a rough go. They have a weird go. But I'm just saying, it's such a guy had a vision. Pygmies went over to Africa and changed their life, and obviously it's changed his life. Every picture you see him, he's smiling. So the dude's done some good. But on the MMA news here, I don't know where I went off with that one. On the MMA news, I think one of probably the biggest news, but it's probably getting the least talk, is the big rumor that Nick Diaz is going to be going to Bellator after this fight. Apparently, there's already a huge deal on the table for him. I don't see why not. That deal makes tons of sense, I think, to both parties. Nick Diaz is, a dude who could be that 3-division champ over there. He does have some stiff competition these days with the likes of Rory McDonald and the likes of Gegard Mousasi if he were to fight at 170, 185. I don't know if he could do 205. Maybe he has fought at 155 before, which is nuts enough. But who he fights in Bellator is very simple. Obviously, he's going to get a title shot right off the bat. I can guarantee that. If not, the 185 division actually is pretty deep in Bellator. And he only adds more to that. Let's see what weight class he fights in. I think 185 is obviously a bit more of a natural fit for him just because he is a bit of a taller dude. But 170, I wouldn't count out for him. I wouldn't count out for him at all. But who is he fighting? Is he fighting in his next? I think pretty sure it was announced he's got a UFC fight coming up here. Let's take a look here. Nick Diaz, what he's going to be up to here. His competition coming out of the gates here. Dude's got one hell of a list of fighters. But he has a no contest against Anderson Silva, only because it all got overturned. Lost to GSP, lost to Carlos Condit. That's some tough competition, but just all decisions. Whooped on BJ Penn, knocked out Paul Daly in Strikeforce. Man, yeah, he has really not fought in a lot recently. His last fight, obviously because of the weed bust, but his last fight was 2015. Before that was 2013. Before that was 2012. 2011 being, almost 8 years ago now, 7 years ago was his last time he was really active. He fought 3 times in 2011. Does he still have it in him to beat Gegard Mousasi? Who do you think he fights first, Kelly? Who do you think when he comes, if he does and when he does come over to Bellator?
Oh man, that's a tough one.
Like
so many good fights.
They do. Even like a dude Monsoon. What the heck's his name? We're having a great time on the show today, folks. We're on the ball. We're on the ball today. He's even got a fight coming up too. But did you find out who Nick Diaz is fighting next?
No,
yeah.
I looked it up. I couldn't find it.
Yeah. Still, either or, it's going to be a good matchup for him. Whoever he decides to take. Probably the biggest news of this week, definitely ONE FC really making waves out there. And they make a huge deal with Turner Broadcast Network on TBS, TNT to show fights. That is a power play and a half with the ESPN deal going to be coming up next here. ONE FC, really, how do they swing that one to go to TBS and TNT? It's not even 100% a done deal, but what show they take on. Apparently the rumor is they'll be all over all of the channels. So they could do a TNT show, could do a TBS show. Maybe they get like a reality series or something like that. But that's massive news coming out of ONE FC. How did they get that? And I guess, Bellator is doing quite well on Paramount, I think. I'm just not sure how accessible Paramount is to people in the States. Do they get it like we get it up here? Does everyone get it, or do you need premium cable for the Paramount Network? Like I've said before, I actually like the Paramount Network. It's actually a pretty good show, showing they have on there with all the different stuff they have. But huge waves coming out of China with ONE FC and the signing of TBS. Can we finally, Kelly, can we get some closure on this goddamn Khabib and Conor thing? I've almost forgotten about it. How long ago was that?
Oh man,
like summertime?
A couple years ago.
Exactly.
At least
10 years ago to date. But Khabib's hearing has been moved to January 29th. Like, that's a far way away. And I guess they're all shutting down for Christmas and whatnot, but still, geez Louise. January 29th, and that's just when his hearing is going to be. So then we may not even know anything until then. And the talk around the town is that these things get delayed all the time. But we're kind of getting to a critical point here. I think that's what they do. They delay until all the heat dies down, and then it's not as big of a deal. But come on, Nevada, get your shit together. Speaking of big moves coming out of Asia, is for the Rizin main event. We got Kawajiri versus Kidoka. Loving that. Tatsuya Kawajiri, love the guy. Bone Crusher, one of the best nicknames of all time in MMA. Super, super game fighter. He didn't have a great run, unfortunately, in UFC. Like most Japanese fighters don't, I don't know what it is. It's just something about the big lights or something. They do great in Japan, but not for the UFC for some weird reason. Kawajiri was one of those dudes, but I've always been a huge fan since he fought in Pride. He made his name, obviously, in Dream was where he really made his name. His match against Eddie Alvarez, I think it was like 2008 or something they had their match. Great match they had in Japan. And it was just one of those back and forth matches. I remember voting for it to be match of the year when that one came out because it was just crazy. Where Kawajiri tagged Eddie Alvarez and dropped him, kind of a quick little flash knockout, and then Kawajiri gets tagged and gets dropped, and then Kawajiri comes back with a crazy takedown and just one hell of a match. Eddie Alvarez went on to win the match. I'm pretty sure they actually had a rematch as well. Let's look it up here. Breaking down the 6 degrees of separation. Tatsuya Bone Crusher Kawajiri. He lost last year at Risen. Fought the year before against Anthony Burchank. I think, that guy's actually fighting in Bellator now. Got submitted by Kron Gracie. Lost to Cub Swanson in UFC. Lost to Dennis Bermudez. Both all by decision, though. And then he actually has 2 wins in the UFC. That's pretty big for any. He's actually got a few wins in the UFC. He actually beat Jason Knight by decision. That's a huge win for him. He beat Dennis Seaver. Lost to Clay Guida, and then had 2 more beating Omagawa. There's another dude who's fallen off the face of the earth. Michihiro Omagawa, also a dude who got a UFC contract, but I'm pretty sure he lost all 3 of his fights. He was really beating people up everywhere. He was kind of crazy because he kind of hated the fans, so he came out as a heel, which was kind of weird. And he always came out to 9 Inch Nails was his song, so he was kind of a really cool, different dude too. But Kawajiri always brought it. He lost to Gilbert Melendez. He actually has a win over Josh Thompson. Lost to Aoki. Just been fighting the top names through his entire career. Here it is. It was 2008, July 21st, 2008. Dream 5. It was a lightweight Grand Prix, and it was definitely one of the best fights of all time. If you haven't checked it out, people, check out this match. Eddie Alvarez versus Tatsuya Kawajiri, 2008 Dream 5. An amazing match. Those guys just went toe to toe, and it was like 7.5 minutes was the fight. So they went toe to toe for that full time. He fought Coulter Gill, a local guy. Coulter Gill's from Abbotsford. He actually has a pretty good MMA gym there as well. It looks like he lost to Gilbert Melendez twice, but he's just a dude who just fought all the top lightweights of the time. And obviously, age is catching up with him as well, but he's always come to bang. He's a great little grappler, too. True representative of MMA. Tatsuya Kawajiri, Bone Crusher. How old is he now? He's 40. Wow, he's 40. Crazy. What a career for that dude. And I can't wait to see his fight at Risen. I'm really going to tune into Risen. Obviously, the Mayweather match would be interesting. Who wouldn't love to see him get knocked out by that dude? In an exhibition match. I think the whole world over wants to see that happen. Big rumor right now, and Usman has posted on his Twitter account, is that he is getting the next Tyron Woodley match, not Colby Covington. I thought, how weird is that? Colby Covington, they're really putting him on the shelf for not taking that fight right away and being injured when other people get breaks when they're injured. Colby Covington's a super D-bag outside of the ring, with his Brazilian smack, and just obviously his Trump support is easy to hate on, and then everything else he does, he's quite outspoken and uses goes to blow the belt a lot, but he's deservedly so the best fighter they have at 170 right now, and I could see him walking through Tyron Woodley as he has done to everybody else in his path. I was a huge hater for him for a long time, but how does Usman leapfrog Colby Covington with that win over Dos Anjos? Sure, it was a dominant win, but so was Colby Covington's. I think Colby Covington's was probably a more dominant win than Usman's, because Colby just did it on the feet too. So I put them up against each other, but I don't think that's fair to each one of those dudes to have to go in a mega war when one of those guys should be getting the title shot, and it should be Colby. I don't understand why it isn't Colby Covington. Quite confused by that move, but that's the rumor, and that's coming from Usman posting on his Twitter account a contract with his name signed to fight for the championship. I'm not saying Usman's not a good fighter, but I just think maybe he's going to leapfrog. What's wrong with Colby? Who did he piss off at the head office to get this done? Maybe the head office of UFC is a lot of Trump haters, and he's getting punished because of that. Who knows? Feel sorry for the dude. Touch base on the Kawajiri Kidoka match too. To take away from Kidoka, he's also a legend in Japan as well. He beat Carlos Condit a long time ago too and he super size mismatch between those dudes. But they're both, I think it's easy fight for Kawajiri because they're both kind of the end of the year of their career. Kidoka's on like one hell of a losing streak, and it's a good fight for both those guys. But I continue. Mega news coming out of the UFC. being proposed as a heavyweight clash against Francis Ngannou. And who do you think, Kelly? Cain Velasquez.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's the
Nice.
huge news coming out is Cain Velasquez's return is going to be against Francis Ngannou. I think it's probably an easy matchup for him because of his wrestling and his gas tank. And he's got power. He's obviously got to watch out for Ngannou's power, but that's everybody in the heavyweight division. You got to watch out for their fists. That's just the division the way it is. But hopefully we can see more from Cain Velasquez. Maybe he can get on the right track and get healthy. But I think pretty sure he's getting up there in age too. I'm pretty sure that Cain Velasquez has got to be in his late 30s. But either way, good to see him, and I think that match put asses in seats. That's what you need is really something like that. I thought we were going to see Overeem versus Ngannou again, but I like Cain Velasquez coming back and fighting. 36, yeah, I hit the nail on the head. Cain Velasquez, does he still get it done, or does he get caught? I mean, I could easily see him just being ground and pound and going instantly for the takedown. There's no way Ngannou could stuff any of Velasquez's takedown. This is bread and butter against a guy, a European dude that's not in his blood against a guy who's in his blood. I see an easy win for Velasquez and a good comeback match. We haven't heard the end of the De La Hoya and Dana White. A little bit of a jab of words back and forth. Have you heard De La Hoya's response?
No.
And even Dana White has come back with his response already. I don't know how true that one is, but De La Hoya's response to Dana White, let's get in the ring. That's what he's saying. He's like, you got to be with me. Let's, obviously he wants to make money. You know what I mean? I think people would watch it. I don't see why they wouldn't.
So mismatched.
Oh, of course. Yeah, it would be a beatdown for De La Hoya, but hey.
No, I was kidding.
I always like that, though. I've always kind of been like that same guy. You know what I mean? Get in the ring. Get in the ring. You want to talk smack, then get in there and back it up. And Dana said some shit, and I think Oscar De La Hoya came back with the best comeback, and I think everyone's thinking, yeah, sure, let's see that fight. I don't know who wouldn't want to see that fight. And he's just saying 3-round boxing match, and I like it. We almost had that Dana White almost fought Tito a long time ago too. Remember, there's that whole documentary, about Dana and how he was trying to track Tito down, and then how Tito backed out, and this and that. I think Tito did the right thing. You know what I mean? It's a lose-lose situation for him, which we always come across these situations in life, lose-lose situations. And I think Tito was obviously, he had somebody smart in his ear saying, don't do it. You win, whatever. You beat him up. You maybe get sucker punched or catch a jab you weren't prepared for, and it stuns you. Huge lose-lose. Get beat up by Dana White. Anybody can win in a fight sometimes, but Tito's a huge dude. Lose-lose situations. Don't do them. Dave Chappelle had that awesome skit where it was like keeping it real goes wrong. Those are lose-lose situations when it's always the person could have just ignored the situation, but no. It is and then they always end up in jail for like a lengthy amount of time because they were keeping it real. Who do you think opens up as there's going to be a size difference, but who do you think opens up? What do you think the odds are going to be, Kelly? For Dana White and Oscar De La Hoya.
Dana and Oscar. Okay.
What do you think the odds are going to be set at?
Man, I have no idea.
Because Dana's got the size.
Yeah.
Maybe he's a bit more. I don't know if he's done as much drugs as Oscar De La Hoya has. You know what I mean? He's probably done a decent amount, but probably not nearly as much.
How do the odds work? I always see like +2.
Oh, okay, I got you. It's like a minus. So if the favorite you get like a minus number,
okay,
and then the guy who is not favored, you get a plus number. So sometimes you'll have it pretty even. Like say if it's like -150 +150, that's a pretty even fight. You're not going to win a ton if you bet on the guy with the plus, and you're not going to win. You're going to win even less on the guy in the minus. You want to see like the opposite. Like I think it's like it'd be like a 1-to-1 bet, which is what that would be. I think that's how it's been explained to me. It's like a 1-to-1 bet. So say if it's like +500 for that guy to win, and then like it'd be even huge on the other side. It'd be like -450. that's like a huge mismatch, and I think that'd be 5-1 odds.
Okay.
And for if the loser won, you know what I mean. So that's kind of how you go by, and then like it goes higher from there. But it is like it's more on a percentage than say like 5-1, 10-1. It's more on a percentage.
Do they both have to fight at the same like a weight class, or is it just open weight?
Yeah, good call. I don't know. Yeah, they would definitely have to be open weight. I wonder what Dana obviously's got to weigh at least. I'd say like 250.
Yeah.
250, and Oscar's probably like 220. Because he's kind of chubby. He's kind of chubby.
So like heavyweight.
Yeah, exactly. So I could see them. Fighting. I wouldn't. I would say like 3 2-minute rounds.
Yeah.
3 2-minute rounds. Like a 3 3-minute rounds. I think you're pushing it.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna see some not enjoyable action go on come that third round. I gotta give it Oscar though, obviously for being a former boxing champ. Even though, like I said, how long that has been. I think it's going to be actually close odds. That's what I'm going to say. It's actually going to be close odds. I think it's going to be a minus 250 for Oscar, plus 350 for Dana White to win that match. Obviously, you got to give the edge to Oscar, but it's been a long time since he's been relevant too. So let's see what happens. Put him in there. I think more is who wants the cut. You know what I mean? Obviously, Golden Boy would obviously want the cut on that one. Huge weekend of MMA. 2 Bellator cards again, mixed in there with a UFC card. So much MMA this week. I didn't even have a chance to look for anything else. I don't think there was really much else around the worldwide. But let's get her started with some MMA. Let's start off with Bellator 212. Primus versus Chandler 2. I always thought it was like Primus, but it's actually Primus. It'd be much cooler. I would be like, no, my last name is Primus. You like the cool band? I don't know why he doesn't want to go with that. No, and he's like, no, it's Primus. Okay. It's kind of weird. In their rematch, there was a lot of smack talk leading up to the fight, which I thought was fitting because these dudes really did have some hate. Because how their first match ended with Michael Chandler's like ankle basically being destroyed, hit a nerve. Primus had hit a nerve so bad in his leg that his foot didn't work properly. Like, how crazy is that? And he obviously had to win the fight. Bellator actually put on 2 really good cards. I thought this one was actually really good too. Both in Hawaii, which I thought was really cool. They beat the UFC to the punch at the Hawaii thing, and I think it was a mega success. Those crowds were jumping. The stadium was filled. They had a ton of stuff for the USO stuff as well for American troops. Bellator really knocked it out of the park this weekend with those 2 shows in Hawaii. Hawaii's obviously got a huge thing with the American Army, the Navy, obviously, with Pearl Harbor and stuff like that. But still, easy knockout. They just laid it up there and knocked it out of the park. And they didn't disappoint. They had actually some good fights. AJ McKee was like, the guy just headlined a Bellator not too long ago. Now he's just on the bottom of the main card. Obviously, he's only 135. He has another very decisive wins. This guy's got to start. He's going to start turning some heads. He's 12-0. I want to take a look at it here at AJ McKee because they had a stat. I think every one of his fights have been in Bellator. Let's break it down. 6 degrees of separation. AJ McKee, the mercenary. Obviously, his dad, Antonio McKee, which is kind of cool, a second-generation fighter. Right? Even Antonio McKee was a very, very good fighter. What he was always known for is being extremely boring. He was one of the most boring fighters this side of the Mississippi. That's how this guy was bad. He was just known for laying on top of dudes and grounding them out very successfully, though. He made an amazing career out of it. And I think his legacy will obviously be his kid. He actually had like a reality TV show for a little while, Kelly. I think it was just called The McKees. So it wasn't, obviously you can imagine it wasn't very successful. But
Speaking of reality TV shows, I was bully beat down.
Oh yeah, that was an awesome.
Jason
Yeah, there must have been too much legal fees involved in that show afterwards. Oh shit! Yeah, that was an awesome show. Andrei Arlovsky was on it. Jake Shields was on it.
Yeah.
Obviously, Mayhem will never host a show again, or you know what I mean. Probably never end up out of jail again.
Yeah, I don't know.
Poor
what
dude.
happened to that guy.
Poor dude.
Punched in the head too many times.
I think so. You know what was crazy? I think he got a ton of money from doing the movie. What was the movie with Kevin James? Get in the Ring or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Here Comes the Boom.
That's it.
Here Comes the Boom. And I think he actually got paid a ton of money. I think it went to his head a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think when he saw those checks roll in, I think he probably never made that much money in his MMA career ever. So he has like a minor role in a movie and gets a massive checks that are just constantly coming in. And I think it went to his head a little bit. Maybe he got hooked up to the wrong people. I don't know. You can only assume somebody that wacky's been hitting some kind of drugs. I'm just saying, where there's smoke, there's fire, y'all. You know what I mean? Where there's smoke, there's fire. I'd hope not. I really enjoyed Mayhem Miller. I'll never forget the first time I saw him too was actually against George St. Pierre. I think it was like 2005. It was open. He was like the first match, and he came out with like a Hannibal Lecter mask, and he was throwing dollar bills into the crowd. And I thought, what the fuck is this guy doing? And I was really, it was like one of the earlier MMA times of like the mega popularity of it, but that was the first match I saw of him, and he got grounded out by George St. Pierre. George St. Pierre was extremely sick that match. I remember he said he couldn't even breathe through his nose that day. He was so sick, but he still took the fight, still won against, Mayhem Miller was really at the peak of his career that time too, but very interesting dude. And hopefully his fighting career is come and gone, and he's obviously stifled that situation of having the movie career. Maybe we see a resurgence of him. Bring him back on the next comeback show on the UFC.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, but yeah, it is true. AJ McKee, he has only fought in Bellator, and he's 13-0. Like, that is nuts. Like, that is pretty crazy stat to grow up in Bellator. You're only going to be really facing, they have some amateur stuff, and I think they built him up properly. Really, to date, he doesn't have the most. He's got Justin Lawrence on his resume. That's a good guy to fight. With his last two fights against Macapa was actually a good fight. And the Daniel Crawford dude, that's why I want to give this Daniel Crawford dude actually props. See, this guy was a tough dude. You can see he came out with some skill. They weren't throwing him an amateur this time. This Daniel Crawford guy was actually pretty darn tough, and I think he had a pretty good career too. I think he was like 10-1. So they gave him someone tough this time, and he whooped on him. But Daniel Crawford didn't give up. He actually threw a really nice 1-2-3 combo, and I think it really caught McKee off guard, just because he's usually used to being the guy who's super, super quick. And he just kind of hit him with that 1-2-3 combo where he had to really duck his head to make sure he didn't take the full brunt of it, but came with such a beautiful anaconda choke. It was just such a really, really tight one. This dude's here for real. I hope he doesn't go to UFC. I hope Bellator has enough money to keep him around, because I think he makes much, much more money. The longer he stays in Bellator, the more money he gets. And then when that time comes, say he wins, maybe he rattles off 10 more wins in Bellator. I could see it happening. When you're 22 or 23-0, that's when UFC's really going to open up the checkbook for you. I think he's got to stay in Bellator, let his brand grow some more. He's got a great gym with all those dudes. Baby Slice is in that gym. Aaron Pico's in that gym. Still, Baby Slice is going to he's not a great fighter, but Baby Slice is going to, be a dude who's going to put it on your chin. That's going to be that Street Fighter brawler to take you into different places that you're maybe uncomfortable with. And I think that's what we saw with a lot of matches on the night. But AJ McKee, dude's really going to start. He's really going to start doing some stuff here coming up, and I think we will see him in a much, much bigger match. They are saying title shot. I think he needs one more and then a title shot at 145. It's a tight division. I can see him moving down to 135 and really owning too, but he's such a big 145. I think that's what catches people off guard. Size and strength, and he just has that wrestling ability built into him. But his choice of clothing afterwards, hot tamales, it was quite odd, Kelly. He's got like these big, like, bedazzled glasses he's wearing with a t-shirt, but he was wearing like an orchestra's jacket, like with like the long lapels at the bottom. You know what I'm talking about? He's like
the tails?
Yeah, exactly. The coattails.
Weird.
I know. And he's got like a hat on too, or I think he had he was wearing like kind of like a beanie. And he was like, had like a worst Snickers plug I had ever heard in my life. He's sponsoring Snickers, but at least I think that's another reason why he should stay in Bellator. You can't plug all that stuff, and you can't you can't have all the sponsors you do in UFC as you do in Bellator. So I think it actually could be more lucrative for him to stick with Bellator with the sponsorship. But like I said, his Snickers endorsement afterwards was terrible. He's like, hey y'all, I ain't myself without these. He's like, is that the best you got, man? Come on, man. Terrible. I appreciate him for being a smart businessman, though. It's good on him. AJ McKee. What was the next fight we have there? Let's get a little breakdown with that dude too. Let's see. I don't know who really know who in Bellator can really throw at him at the division. I don't know if 145 is really their, you know what I mean? Obviously they got Patricky and Emmanuel Sanders. I think it's more of a revolving door when it comes to Bellator, the 145 division. But with good shows like this, I think this whole weekend was a mega success for Bellator. They had a lot of, I noticed as well with Bellator and with UFC, they had a lot of dudes from certain fight camps. So they must have had like some kind of deal going where like there was like a whole fight camp was at both events. So they must have some kind of thing where they're working to help people train. You know, obviously it'd be much easier if everyone in the gym is going to have a fight so they can all be on the same level with training. I thought that was kind of interesting. Even UFC, there was a lot of dudes from the Sick Jitsu, which is in Spokane. That's where Michael Chiesa's gym is, and the guy who fought in Bellator, Sam Sicilia. And he actually had a really good showing against Derek Campos. I thought that was a razor-thin decision where Sicilia was really landing all the shots in the first. I thought he almost had lost that fight. Another one, actually, very exciting split decision fight between two dudes. Sam Sicilia had, he's kind of had an up-and-down career. Not a great one, but he gets a tight decision after. Just couldn't put away Campos. Just couldn't put him away. And Campos turned it on in the later rounds and getting a few takedowns and really winning it. Juliana Velasquez versus Alejandra Lara was I don't know how that one went to split decision. That was just, from my scorecard, it was an easy one for Juliana. It was just a kind of a one-sided beatdown, really, in my books. Kind of weird that that was another weird split decision. That brings us to the co-main event of the evening. Javi Ayala versus Frank Mir. Kind of a weird fight. I think it was Mir just smothering him in the first round. Did you catch that fight, Kelly?
I did.
Yeah, Mir was just smothering him in the first round. I thought Javi was just smart enough to have obviously just trained jiu-jitsu defense, it looks like, and he's a big dude. He's not going to be easily submitted. And I think he was a little bit stronger than Mir thought, and a bit more savvy on the ground. But he managed to come out of the first round alive. Obviously, coming into the match, I thought it was an easy slam dunk for Mir to secure the win on the ground. And he had some easy takedowns. It was the easiest strategy and the smartest strategy. I was so surprised how he didn't get the finish in the first round. And then in the second round, it was so crazy. Mir just catches that glancing elbow, which didn't even really hit him, but obviously it cut the shit out of him. Those glancing elbows just slice you right open. And Mir, once that blood started pouring, he gave up, basically. He just totally gave up. The cut was spewing, though, obviously. He turned into a punching bag, though. There was that one moment where Javi just had him in the corner and just was tooling on him on his stomach. And Mir just lost everything, lost all power when that blood started spewing. Eventually spits out his mouthpiece. Now he's gassed all of a sudden. He spits out his mouthpiece, gets beat up. He's getting beat up in the corner. Javi is really using his hands in his face. He was not making it easy for Frank Mir to be in there. Close to, not with all that blood in there, it obviously was even worse. And then he busts his face so bad, he actually broke his jaw in a spot. You could tell instantly, he tapped out instantly when he got punched there. And broke his jaw. It was a really weird part of his jaw. I don't think it was a full break, but he was grabbing his tooth. So I think it broke a chunk of his teeth off. Not a good place to have any break, and he taps instantly to it. Rough showing for Frank Mir. That's 2 losses in a row for Frank Mir against, dudes who have been put in front of him to be beaten. That's 4 losses in a row for Frank Mir. 2 in Bellator. The last 2 in UFC. Lost to Arlovsky. He got KO'd by Mark Hunt. He gets KO'd by Fedor. And now another TKO to Javi Ayala. Man. Crazy. He does not have a good run here in his last, look at his last 10 fights, he's only won 2. He's 2-8 in his last 10. That's not a good That's not a good showing. But from a guy who should be tearing it up, he's in Bellator where it's supposed to be easy for him. He really should be tearing it up. He's obviously older. He's 39. He's fought a ton. Obviously, he came back from that motorcycle accident. It really wasn't the same. But then found his rhythm, became the heavyweight champ again, kind of having a great rivalry with Brock Lesnar. I think was a really big rivalry for him, and beating Nogueira, beating Nogueira twice too, and breaking his arm. He's had a lot of good rivalries. I just thought he had a little bit more in the tank, and maybe he doesn't. Maybe he does. We'll find out here.
Yeah, so the injury looks like a section of his teeth and his jaw broke off. And he said that he thought it was just his teeth, so he was trying to pull them out. And when he tried to pull them out, he got pain just shot through the roof of his mouth. So that's when he tapped.
Nasty. Yeah. He knew he had to. Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought. That's why, because just exactly that. Just because of the way he was grabbing his mouth, it looked like it was extremely, because his mouth just was like gushing blood instantly too. Like it was from the blood from the cut, and then in the inside of his, when his mouth starts gushing that badly, you knew something was up. But it was almost like, but he did lose his mouthpiece. So like, where does the referee stand in that? Because normally the referee would stop it and get his mouthpiece back in there. And I think maybe it was a dude with a massive mustache. Mm-hmm. I think maybe he may have dropped the ball in this one. Sure, Javi was in a position, in a like a progressive position to end the fight. But I almost think you should have paused them, popped the mouthpiece back in, and then resumed them in the same position. These referees, I gotta give it to them. That would be the coolest shit. I wish I could be like a referee or some shit, or like the ring announcer. You have the best fucking seat in the house. That's the only reason why. I got a front row seat. You're right up there. You're the frontest of the front row. There's like only a select few get to sit where you're sitting. I think that would be the shit. Hit me up, any minor league organizations. If you need a commentator, in-ring commentator, in-ring announcer. Love it. Weird loss for him, though. That brings us to the main event of the evening. Iron Michael Chandler versus Brent Primus. Does Brent have a nickname here? Let's take a look here. I can't remember if he does. He does not. He's so white bread, he doesn't even have a nickname. From fighting out of Portland, Oregon, that was his first loss. It wasn't a great fight. It was okay. Opening round, I think, kind of set the pace for the whole fight, though, which was kind of weird. Michael Chandler came out and really smoked him. He really smoked Primus, right, and really caught him and wobbled him, and he kind of just ground him, kind of held him down and ground and pounded him for most of the match, which is Michael Chandler's style. I wasn't surprised to see that it went to the decision, but every single round was pretty much the same thing. Chandler would kind of swarm him, get a takedown, hold him there for the whole round. Swarm, get a takedown, hold him down for the whole round. So it was obviously a decisive win for him, and a win that was definitely necessary for Chandler. Winning his title back. Those dudes had some beef, and giving Primus his first loss. I wasn't surprised. Great show though. I wasn't totally surprised. Great show. By the ending was kind of what I expected. So I wasn't disappointed, at least. I kind of expected that. A bit of a lackluster ending, but that's the way they go sometimes. That's just MMA for you. Guy's gonna use his best tools in the match. You'd have to be an idiot not to go out there. I'm just gonna stand and punch this dude in the face just for the fans. No one's gonna do that. Nobody. 2 events on Saturday. It was a great Saturday with UFC heading out to Wisconsin. Milwaukee show. A lot of dudes from Milwaukee, I guess, were there. Good show though. But the other, having the second Bellator card in Hawaii, what a good move, especially for Leila McFarland there. She, really had a huge pop at her show, but we'll get to that shortly. Let's break down UFC on Fox 31. Iaquinta versus Lee 2. Final show for Fox. They had a lot of thank you Fox shit and Fox stats, you know what I mean? And different dudes who had fought on Fox and made their career on Fox and different shit like that. They all had a thank you Fox on, which was nice. I think there's been a ton of memorable Fox shows throughout the years, and this was one of them too. This was a good card, good way to end it out. I think it was great to have that promotion with Fox, and obviously on now on to ESPN and everything that brings. I hope they don't screw it up. That's all I gotta say. But I think they'll do just fine with it. I think they'll just do fine. It was actually quite stacked. I thought. Same with the Bellator card. Actually, both the cards are actually quite stacked for the Saturday. Go head to head. I wonder what the numbers were though, because you got Bellator on DAZN. Also, the Canelo fight was on DAZN. I wonder what the fight numbers were between the UFC fight card and Bellator, because you got to obviously compare them. They got to be comparable to each other. Obviously, having the one in Hawaii for the Hawaiian fighters is obviously going to be huge for people to watch. Especially the Hawaiians eat up fighting too, so I don't see why they wouldn't do that way. But let's get to the UFC. I actually watched the undercard. It was actually really, really exciting. Thank God. Before I get into it, we had the A team. That was kind of cool. The A commentating team for the Fox card, which is something you don't see. John Anik, Daniel Cormier, and I really like Paul Felder. Actually, to have the third. I don't think the third dude is really necessary all that much. I guess it's a situation they're going with, which I don't mind. But I like Paul Felder. I think Paul Felder and John Anik have been good in the past, and I think Daniel Cormier is obviously their best color commentator guy. They all kind of had a moment there. I think it was it was the Iggy versus Jordan Smith match, and they were in like an odd position, and they both kind of were like, Paul Felder was like, I don't know what to say about that, and John Anik's like, I'm not really sure how to describe that, and then Daniel Cormier took the ball around with it. He's like, what he's got to do here is he's got to put his left hand on the guy's right knee and push off, pop his head out there. He's got to sneak out there. So Daniel Cormier took that little ball and rolled with it. I'm like, oh, great job right on the fly there. He pulled out really well. Daniel Cormier, keep up the great work. Amazing color commentator. I hope he's got a great career afterwards. I can bet he could do other stuff too, like football or whatever. I really always liked DC throughout his career. One of my favorite fighters, and he's just so good on the mic. And I hope he gets a very long career doing that. We were blessed to have the A-team commentating team. I can tell you that much. I can stand those other dudes. If I see Jimmy Smith again, I'm seriously gonna mute every goddamn event I watch. Jeez Louise. But it was a weird fight between that the one that I was talking about, how DC had to kind of touch base on against Dan Ige. He gets a super controversial win. I really had the fight for the other dude. But for Jordan Griffin, he really had rocked the dude in the first round and kind of had stood toe-to-toe in the second round. I don't know how he lost it. But then he has like a super controversial, kind of like a awkward post-fight speech where he's like, I didn't want to fight today, but I got kind of made to fight today. And it's like, where are you coming from? He's like, I just didn't feel like. And then like even John Anik's like, were you feeling under the weather or what was wrong? He's like, no, I just didn't feel like fighting. So it's like, oh, that's kind of weird. So it's like almost like you're saying like they forced you to fight. So kind of a cringeworthy post-fight speech. I thought it was really odd, actually. Do you want to fight or don't you want to fight? I understand everyone feels you wake up in the morning, you don't want to do something, but you've trained and you've practiced, and there's a lot of people paying you money, and this is what you want to do, and then the last second say, no, not going to do it. Odd. Very, very odd. The next fight, it was actually a really good showing between Zach Cummins and Trevor Smith. That was actually a really, really good fight. Trevor Smith was just really beating the crap out of him all fight, and then Zach Cummins kind of came on later in the second and then in the third. Really good fight, but the fight that I thought was really crazy, I don't know if this guy gets it. Maybe. I'll think about it. I'll put him under consideration for the Natural Born Killers list. It's Jax Hermanson. This dude just really had a great showing against Mearshant. It was a crazy fight. He just took him to the ground and just was such a grappling exhibition. This dude was so strong. He had one plan and one plan only, and that was to take this dude to the ground and win it that way. What was so crazy about it, Kelly, did you watch this fight? It was a crazy guillotine finish, and this Jack guy is just mauling him, totally mauling him on the ground, all over him. The guy's just fighting for his life. This Gerald Mearshant guy is just fighting for his life. They finally get up the crowd chants because the Hermanson guy is kind of a little bit tired from grounding this dude out, and the Gerald Mearshant instantly goes for a guillotine like a pulled guard guillotine, ends up back on the ground, and the guy pops out of the guillotine instantly, and then he ends up losing the fight. He ends up I think he lost by choke. Yeah, by guillotine, he ends up getting choked right afterwards. So, it's like, what a dumbass move. You could take a grappler to the ground. Good move, man. It was obviously a lapse in judgment. We're on the outside looking in, but still, I just felt like so sorry for him. Dumb move. Another really crazy fight. It was Joaquim Silva versus Jared Gordon. Man, was that ever a back and forth too. That was a super crazy fight for Silva to come back and win by a KO. I thought really Jared Gordon really had Silva on the ropes right out of the bat. But it was like a standing knockout. It was a crazy back and forth match. Those guys really went to town. Man, that was a really good fight. I love it when the undercards really sets it up. It gives the main event, the main card, a run for their money. And I always enjoy that. I think that's what MMA is about. Sometimes when you have the lower level in talent, they're kind of middle of the road talent. They put on some great shows. And I think when you see upper level talent, sometimes you see a lot of snore-fests because it's the best versus the best, and no one wants to lose. Drakkar Klose actually had a good showing against Bobby Green. I really thought Bobby Green was going to win that. I could have swore he did win that. Maybe the stats are wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. It was kind of a slower fight. We had Zach Otto versus Dwight Grant. Could be related to somebody I know, but probably not. A lot of Grants out there for some weird reason. They go split decision. There was a lot of tight ones, but then when the main card, Charles Oliveira versus Jim Miller, man, what a fight that was. And it was just so cool for Oliveira to get that win and become the number one most submission finishes in the UFC. Beats Royce Gracie for the number one most submissions. That's one hell of an honor to have. And what a tough to come back against Jim Miller, who had beaten him before, and just instantly because Jim Miller's been one of those black belts as well for a very long time, like one of the best black belts. Kind of that East Coast fighter style too. He never really could get going, but one dude who was an amazing grappler, and we see him get out-grappled by Charles Oliveira do Bronx, who's had one hell. He's on a 3-fight win streak right now, too. All by submissions. He guillotines Clay Guida. Rear naked chokes Cristiano Glagos. Jim Miller's a huge win for him. Even though Jim Miller's on the way out of his career, I think Jim Miller would be a great coach. He'll definitely own a gym and be a great coach with that. He got TKO by Paul Felder. He beat Will Brooks, which was a huge win. He rear naked choked him as well. Lost to Ricardo Lamas. He got guillotined by two dudes. He got guillotined by Lamas. Got guillotined by Pettis. He guillotines Miles Jury. And then he gets that crazy loss against Max Holloway. We've talked about this on the show before. He got an esophagus injury. He had to tap out. His esophagus got sliced open mid-fight somehow in the middle, like in his throat. Like he got kind of a small punch in the throat, and it made it so the dude couldn't breathe. It was instant tap. It was crazy. He gets a decision loss to Frankie Edgar. He gets KO'd by Cub Swanson. He choked out Jonathan Brookings. Calf slicered Eric Wisely. Wow, that's a crazy move. Rear naked choke Efren Escudero. Armbar against Darren Elkins. Wow, the dude's going to win. He's going to win by submission. Crazy stats by Charles Oliveira. And a huge win for him. Hats off, man. Hats off. That's a stat that's going to be hard for anyone to take. I'd love to see who's like second on that list even, because I don't even think it's close. Even think like Royce Gracie didn't really fight that much, but when you're fighting those tournaments and you're choking out every dude, that's 3 chokes in one night. So that's a leg up on most dudes. Crazy fight. Good win for him, though. Good win for him. Rob Font versus Sergio Pettis. I wasn't interested in that fight at all, obviously. But it was obviously got what you paid for with that one. Rob Font kind of just pushing the pace, and nothing really to speak of with it, really. Quite a boring fight. But Edson Barboza, versus Hooker. Man, was that crazy. You check that one out, Kelly?
Oh, man, I think I just missed it.
Shitty, yeah.
Watching when it started.
It was a brawl and a half. Man, it was nuts. It was like Barboza was getting so exhausted and kicking the shit out of Hooker. But what I really liked about Hooker is he didn't have the class in striking that Edson Barboza obviously has. He's a world-class striker who could step into the ring with any kickboxer, any Muay Thai guy, and really give him a run for their money, if not beat the crap out of him. But Dan Hooker had an interesting style to kind of combat that. And it just was a constant in-your-face, throwing punches, throwing hooks, throwing jabs, always pushing forward and constantly in your face. There was a few tiny parts there between the shit kicking he took that whole entire fight. Like, it was a huge beatdown. There was at one point where he couldn't stand on his leg. And then he's getting these. Then when he started guarding his leg, he was getting shot. He was getting punched and kicked in the body like crazy. And then when that stopped, he started going to the head. So what a clinic Edson Barboza put on. And like I said, Dan Hooker, I hope he gets another fight because he did not go out. 3 rounds of this he took almost, Kelly. Almost. The fight got stopped 3 minutes 20 seconds into the third. He took just a sheer beatdown and didn't stop coming forward the whole time. Huge fight for Dan Hooker, but obviously even bigger win for Edson Barboza to come back. And a pretty good showing. A pretty good show. I think a lot of people tuned into this show. And that's going to get him another bunch of fights. I think he's in such a tough division. And to be a gatekeeper of that division is no knock at all. You can't, I don't think he could be the top 5 guys. It's just one of those things where he's a very, very deadly dude and very dangerous at all times. But I just don't know if he's got in for top 5. Let's break it down. 6 degrees of separation. Edson Barboza beat Dan Hooker, obviously. He lost to Kevin Lee, actually. TKO. Oh, it was in the 5th round. Yeah, I think they headlined that one. He lost to Khabib, only a decision as well. Beat Dariush, beat Gilbert Melendez, beat Anthony Pettis. So he's very, 155 wouldn't be the same without Edson Barboza really out there. Lost to Tony Ferguson. He beat Paul Felder. Lost to Michael Johnson. So he's, that win was a must-win for him, definitely. That's for darn sure in the UFC ranks. Definitely a must-win for him. And they gave him a very tough competition. Good win for him. I can't wait to see what brings up Edson Barboza coming up next. But just with those losses, I just don't see him, maybe he can get the number 5 guy, whoever that would be, but or maybe he moves into the number 5 spot. I think that's a perfect spot for a gatekeeper with the likes of Edson Barboza. That brings us to the main event of the evening. Al Iaquinta versus Kevin the Motown Phenom Lee. It was a good fight. It was okay. It was very similar to the Chandler and Primus fight, actually. If I think about it now, it was kind of a slower decision, and it really kind of turned the tail. It was kind of the same. Lee came out a bit stronger, obviously, but he just got busted up by Al Iaquinta. He was working his jab. He was really working his striking. I was quite impressed with it. I think obviously because he didn't want to go to the ground with Kevin Lee. And I think that's a very smart move. And he eventually hurt him enough where just like Kevin Lee kind of shut down those last 2 rounds, he totally shut down. And obviously, you don't want to go to the judges' decisions when it's two rounds and 2 rounds. Who knows who saw that third, right? So it's Kevin Lee was quite upset with the decision afterwards. I had it for Iaquinta 3-2. He thought otherwise. He thought he had 3-2. Still, you can't let off the pedal, especially against Iaquinta. You definitely cannot let off the pedal. And he won. The best part was hearing Matt Serra just screaming in the background. I thought that was the best. Just to hear him yell. That's what you want as your corner, man. That guy's piercing voice that comes through. If you could understand him through his very odd accent, his very New York accent.
Get him, Georgie!
Exactly. Pick him apart! Pick him apart!
You remember when he was cornering GSP?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, no, it was. He also cornered.
And then he fought GSP.
Yeah.
And beat him. That's crazy.
It was one of his guys where he was like quite vocal. I can't remember what the heck this guy's name was. Remember he had like a kind of like a shaved head, like it's like all MMA fighters. He had like a duo with like Matt Stone or like I don't know Steve Stone, Hansa Smith Stone or Hansa Smith Stone, Hansa Stone Smith, Steve Smith I think the guy's name was. Good fighter, 185. Can't remember his name though. Good win for Iaquinta though. He just was being the aggressor, and I think that's what we saw here. Good showing though. It was good to see all the Fox moments and shit like that. It was actually a really good event. I enjoyed it. What time are you at here? Well, let's We'll take a little short break here, folks. We'll continue our MMA talk right after these brief messages. Stay tuned.
Statistically, 100% of MMA fighters drink water.
Get yourself some water. Thirsty? Try water. It's great. Tired of drinking dry coffee? Try mixing it with hot water. Delicious hot bean water. Thanks to water.
Man, this bean water's delicious.
It really perks me up in the morning. I don't like bean water, but I love the bag of water. Try it out. Tea with hot water.
You just got teabag. Tired of plain old melon? Try watermelon.
This watermelon's way better than any honeydew shit. Honeydew ain't got shit on this watermelon.
Tired of old school dry cleaning? Try wet cleaning at home with water.
My clothes have never been more clean since I've started using water. And to upgrade your clean, try hot water. New and improved water from the water company, Hot Water.
Damn, this works even better.
It's hot. I got a hot day tonight, but my balls stink. What am I ever gonna do? Need to wash your nuts? Try hot water and soap. Good gravy, my balls are beautiful now. Thanks, hot water. Wash your ass with hot water while you're at it. From the water company. And welcome back, folks. I hope you enjoyed our brief break in commercials. And why don't you go get yourself a nice tall glass of water on the house? Let's get back to some MMA with Bellator 213. Amazing card. I think they beat UFC tonight. I think Bellator. Even though it was a free Fox show, I think Bellator finally did it with this Hawaiian card. I don't know. I want to see the numbers, but I think they've done it. And they've done it with some up and rising stars, and some of their own veterans, and some UFC stars. With this match as well, they had it where it was the event. They didn't even have a lot of the fighters on this one. A lot of dudes didn't fight, like Kale Hose, one dude who was well documented on this show here that fought Phil Baroni a ton of times in Hawaii. A Hawaii staple of a fighter, and good on Bellator for giving this dude some money. He did come in overweight, and just by chance he didn't get to fight. I'm not sure what the rules are if you don't fight. I think you get some kind of money. I think you get your lose money. But a dude is coming off 4 losses, just one hell of a Hawaiian staple, 7-6. He had a really good run when he beat Phil Baroni. He was like 7-1 and kind of lost everything from there, really, or 6-1, and lost everything from there. He lost to Bubba McDaniels. I didn't know that. Another dude, Bubba McDaniels, who was kind of really, really messed up news. I probably should. Yeah, he had threatened a guy, but the guy was apparently rumored to have been involved with killing of his young son, which was kind of like an accidental thing. And super, super sad news coming out of Bubba McDaniels. 6 degrees of separation takes a sad turn. But the rest of he didn't get to fight, but the rest of the card was actually pretty good. Obviously, they had a ton of their main guys, like I was speaking of before, with their veterans they have built, with King Mo losing to Liam McGreer, who's another Bellator staple of a guy as well. Liam McGreer getting the TKO, huge statement win for him. He really needed that one. And King Mo, where does he move from here? That's a lot of losses for him stacked up. I unfortunately think King Mo is going to end up going to pro wrestling, or where else does he go? If you're losing this badly in Bellator, Not a good sign for a dude his young, as young as he is. But he's fought a lot. He's fought a ton. Let's just take a quick look at Liam McGreary, see what kind of streak he's come. Pretty sure he lost. Yeah, he did lose his 2 fights. Vadim Nemkov and Linton Vasily lost to. But then, beating King Mo is a huge win. His loss to Phil Davis was kind of expected. American super American, all-American wrestler versus a British, kind of jiu-jitsu guy. I kind of expected that as much. But King Mo tumbles hard on this one here. Like, when was King Mo's even his last win? The guy is just struggling to find traction. He's come up against some tough competition, though. He's definitely come up against some tough competition. He loses to McGreary, loses to Ryan Bader with that quick knockout. He actually beat Rampage, but that's not saying much. Rampage is quite old. He obviously got TKO'd by Crow Cop in the Risen Grand Prix over there. Obviously, that was expected. Crow Cop's huge compared to King Mo, I'm sure. He beats Ishii, loses to Phil Davis. So, he's not on a terrible run as of yet. But if he loses again, I think people are really going to start questioning, does he belong in the sport, really? He's got to find a way to turn it around. Obviously, his chin isn't very good, and maybe he's too big for 205. That's kind of what I noticed here against Liam McGreary, too. Obviously, against Phil Davis as well. He's not a huge 205. He is low. He is bottom heavy, but still, maybe can he make the cut to 185? That's gonna be a tough cut for anybody. Huge win for Neiman Gracie, though, over Ed Ruth. Ed Ruth was undefeated to get the rear naked choke on a really seasoned grappler like Ed Ruth. That's a huge win. Another, America loves its all-American wrestlers, and that's what Bellator does well, too. They hire these all-American wrestlers who are very unproven when it comes to MMA and actual throwing punches, but when you have that dude with that skill set already built in, I think you're going to have a great recipe for success. And maybe Brock Lesnar is the dude who kind of had coined that whole story of that dude. Really, obviously, it was pretty easy to say that these American college wrestlers would be good in fighting, but maybe Brock Lesnar was the first dude to say, all the other wrestlers like, hey, I can do that now too. You know what I mean? Brock Lesnar was really a huge guy. I can really do that too. Tons. It's just storied, all these American wrestlers that come out and that are really, really good. But huge loss for him. It was still, maybe that loss helps him. But Neiman Gracie moves up and now is undefeated as well. He's actually Hoist Gracie's son, and huge win for him. And Lyoto Machida almost losing. He didn't look very good. He had a very, very similar win, just exactly like Gegard Musashi's first Bellator fight. If you had to put those 2 fights together, very poor showings by both guys, by Machida and by Gegard Musashi in his fight against Shlemenko. But obviously Rafael Carvalho he's not a slouch to backpedal on. And he almost won it. He had Lyoto in trouble a few times there, but just couldn't get it done. I guess they gave the nod to Machida. I had it tight. I'm a Machida fan, so I could have seen that fight easily going either way. I thought it could have easily went to Rafael's way, but Machida pulls it out. Huge win for him. He actually has a big showing in he's a staple of Hawaii for a long time. Lyoto Machida. He fought on one of the first K1 MMA events, and it was funny enough. It was against BJ Penn in Hawaii, is when they fought. And so if you can imagine how big Lyoto Machida is. Could you believe that he fought BJ Penn? If you haven't,
yeah, I've watched the fight.
Exactly. Yeah, don't watch it. Don't.
It's quite comical.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a good fight. Yeah, K1 Heroes won. Yeah, it was the first K1. This old mind up here sometimes it holds this stuff in somehow. But smart move by K1. They knew what to do, and I think that was at the same time when BJ Penn was I think he was the champion. The welterweight champ, and he had that holdout, I think, because K1 threw enough money out. It was my mistake. It was in Japan, but still. What a weird fight. Who would take that fight at that weight class? And it was a pretty lackluster, obviously. BJ Penn held in there. I think that's why he took the fight, but obviously you understand a 205 BJ Penn. He was
a less effective BJ Penn. at that weight class. Couldn't quite move his body like he usually would.
For some reason, it's like he packed on the pounds too. It's like
just ate his way to
I know. I was like, that's not the best strategy to go with. Not the best strategy to go with. But Lyoto Machida getting it done. Who does he fight next? I think it's got to be maybe give him another fight. Let's not push the Gegard Musashi fight just yet. Give Gegard another fight. Give Lyoto another fight, and then have them fight each other. I think that's going to be your best bet when it comes to really extending the career of those dudes. Because I think if we do see them fight each other, it's going to be Gegard Musashi. I'm pretty sure they've already fought, and I think Lyoto Machida won. He does have a win over Gegard Musashi. I was right. Decision win at UFC Fight Night 36. They headlined that card, actually. 5 rounds. But that's a tough fight for anybody. Machida's a tough fight for anybody, especially with Gegard, which I think would want to stand with Lyoto Machida. And that's not a good place to be in. I think if you want to fight Lyoto, you got to take him to the ground. His stand-up is just too quirky. Can be good. A lot of people have beaten him up on stand-up, but just because his chin isn't that great, but still, could be one of those things where it's obviously just an advantageous fucking situation. And that brings us to the main event of the evening. Ilima-Lee Macfarlane versus Valerie Letourneau. Great fight for both those girls, and obviously Macfarlane was just too much. Eliminator, Bellator has a star on their hands here. That's what they really didn't have, was a female star, and they have one here with Ilima-Lee Macfarlane. She's finishing. She's great on the ground. Her ground skill is unbeatable. She has the build to be able to ground these girls out, and she's doing it smart as well. She's not just rushing to it. She knows how to work it. She knows how to make it, how to win fights, and it's for years to come. I think they needed that star for the women's division, and they got it. They didn't have to pay for it. They had a homebred this girl here. 8 fights in Bellator, all wins, and another one on her resume at the biggest stage of her career in Hawaii, with Bellator going to Hawaii in a massive show. They really did a great job with having the home star, and for her to win, amazing way to top it off. Good work for Bellator, and Scott Coker kind of calling his shot out as well afterwards in the post-fight. Did you hear about this, Kelly, where he was saying that because there was a cancellation of UFC, I think it was 230 or 233, it got canceled, and they've moved it now so I think it was supposed to be in San Diego. He's calling him out, saying that they did it because they didn't have a strong enough card to go up against Bellator, because Bellator has the heavyweight tournament that same night. So that's why they're saying that Scott Coker coming out a little bit cocky. Coker coming out cocky, am I right? And saying that UFC doesn't want to go up against that Bellator show, and hey, maybe they don't actually. But what a showing for Bellator, solidifying their number 2 status. But what I love about these big cards for Bellator, for being on DAZN, good move by them. They're already free, but have Big John and Mauro Ranallo as their commentators. Amazing commentators. Big John is the color who explains everything. He's got the years and years of experience, being the dude that was at the first UFC as the referee. Now he's transitioned over to commentating so smoothly. It's just amazing. He's going to be commentating till he's like 100 at least. He's just timeless, Big John McCarty. And Mauro Ranallo, local dude. He's from Abbotsford, and he's one of the best voices out there, bar none. And for the smartest, he does everything. He does boxing, he does MMA, and he does pro wrestling. Who else can say they do that? Very few when it comes to it. It's only dudes. You can see dudes in sports casting do baseball and football. I don't know if they would do basketball though. I think he's got the trifecta where those dudes won't even do that trifecta. Unmatched is Mauro Ranallo, and a local star who deserves some kind of walk of fame or some shit. Or maybe he deserves to have a street named after him in Abbotsford. We're not from Abbotsford. It's a shithole of a town. but we live near Abbotsford. It just such even more to him how a rose like that grew out of such a piece of shit dirt shit hole like Abbotsford. Mauro Ranallo really getting it done. I could listen to him like read the phone book. That's how good he is. He's just you know what I mean. I hope to be as even slightly as successful as he is one day. That's how he got started. He had a wrestling talk show. That was his first how he got started, and he would commentate local women's Muay Thai fights. That's how he did, like amateur female Muay Thai fights.
Nice.
That was his start. I can't forget about boxing. Boxing had a good showing also on DAZN. DAZN really getting done this weekend. We're seeing some game changers coming out here, folks, and I think DAZN is one of those teams that is coming out and doing it. They're really promoting these fights super, super well, to have the Bellator and to have as much boxing as they do, especially to have the Canelo Alvarez fight as well. I caught the highlights of it, and it was good. Alvarez just showing his versatility, really working the body, and beating up a bigger dude. I think it was obviously on paper, it was an easier fight for him to pick and to take, but Canelo Alvarez, another huge win, and I think it was a win for boxing. I think a lot of people liked it. I enjoyed the fight as well, and he put on a good show. Canelo really racking it up now here, beating Triple G after the draw. Yeah, just tons and tons of wins on his resume now, and where does he solidify in the best boxers? You know, losing to Floyd Mayweather, but that was a long time ago when he was young and Floyd was kind of just 2013 when Floyd was at his peak, kind of stepping away. Good win for him, though. Good win for boxing. With us being so close to Christmas, though, haven't even got to my take this week yet. Christmas right around the corner. The best part about it is we see all these year-end shows. I've always loved the year-end show. It's always been my absolute favorite when it comes to MMA, because no other place did it better than Pride back in the day. Even Dream did it amazingly. But that just goes to show what would be my perfect year-end show. If I had it, I was all of a sudden Antonio Inoki handed me the reins in Japan, open checkbook. What would you obviously have to be in Japan? Year-end show. It's because I think the year-end it stands for more than about religion. It's universal. Year-end is about just the calendar flipping over, the number going up. And I think that's what everyone is always tied together in with this in the holiday season, New Year's Eve. And no one's done it better than Japan. But I think what Japan's always done so great is I would have pro wrestling on my card. Number one, have the undercard, the black matches, as it will, the undercard, pro wrestling. I think it's you're gonna have 2 rings though. That's the only thing. You can't have two rings. One ring, they've done it before in the past, where they have a crossover show. Even Bellator's done it, where they've had a crossover show with kickboxing and MMA, and they have 2 rings side by side. One's the squared circle, and the other one's the octagon, which totally works. I think you could do it in a different cool way, like maybe have like one lowers and one goes up. You know what I mean? Like the MMA ring comes down. You know what I mean? And it's the light show, and then and then that ends, and then that one goes up, and then the boxing ring comes down, and that's the way you could do it there. Have some cool stage show to do it. But what would be the coolest is I've always talked about this show, and some other fucking asshole stole that bit of having a crossover, but an even better crossover of some of the MMA fighters fighting in wrestling, in pro wrestling, and then vice versa. Have a match where a pro wrestler fights in MMA. They always have those dudes in Japan. I think that's would be really cool, and kind of have like a storyline with them as well to kind of work off the storyline, and they have some heat in the wrestling match, and then they come and actually fight in MMA. Something funny like that. Exhibition grappling matches. You know what I mean? I think that really works. They had that with a long time ago with Gegard Musashi versus Fedor, and they also had Shinya Aoki versus Fedor in an exhibition grappling match. I think it's funny. It's about it's a 5-minute match. Just let it happen. It's 2 dudes who really aren't going to go for each other, but they're going to try to put on a decent show. Make it with gis or some shit like that. I like that idea. A grappling exhibition match just to mix it up. Let's fucking throw 10 pounds of shit into this 5-pound bag. If this is gonna be my fucking year-end show, let's just get it everything going. But I really like that. And then to round it off, have a kickboxing tournament. 8-man tournament, make it a heavyweight tournament. They've done that a lot in the past in Japan. I love that. You have all that, maybe have the heavyweight championship bout mixed with a 8-man heavyweight kickboxing tournament all in one night. Make it like a 6-hour show. It's a whole day event. I just love that. Just like I said, just cramming it all in there. New Year's Eve is it's just such a, with MMA, it's always been such a thing, and it's been started by Japan. We got to make it big, and somebody's got to do it again. UFC's kind of stepped away from it. And Rizin's trying, but always love the year-end shows to be something like your Oscars. You know what I mean? You're a big deal. You're a big award show. Kick it off. But where does this bring us for next year? Hopefully next year we'll see somebody have a big show, have a big year-end show. Because this year I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed with everybody.
Speaking of urine, Machida drinks his own pee.
This just in, brand new news, Lyoto Machida, piss drinker. Felony piss drinker. Well, wraps up our week of MMA. With all that MMA, let's talk some wrestling. Let's talk some Raw. I was just thinking, I feel so sorry for Bobby Roode. He's got to be paired up with Chad Gable, as always, for some weird reason. And that they even give Chad Gable his own robe, too. I'm like, oh, man, I feel so sorry for you, Bobby Roode. You really had a good gimmick going, and now they just glom Chad Gable and his know-nothing, zero charisma with your robe thing. And what was even more shocking is they won the fucking tag titles. I was just so weirded out by that move. Whatever. I like Bobby Roode, but still, to give that tag team the titles, that just shows how bad the tag team division in WWE as a whole really is. When those two dudes even have a sniff at it, I would even be happier with the B team being the champs. It's just terrible. Can't believe they won the titles. Really impressed with Ruby Riott and her mic skills have just gone through the roof. She was a little shaky at first, and I thought that was obviously the only facet of her toolbox that she wasn't that great at. Was her talking wasn't the best, and she has had this script and run with it super well. It's the facial expressions, just how, and it must be hard to the way she's going at Natty Neidhart, but it just must be super hard for her to even go with that angle of her dad just dying, and then to use that must be hard emotionally, because they're obviously friends in real life, and they know it's a business, and they know that's what works. But to go after her like she is going, it's got to be tough, and she's doing it amazingly. Making her kind of like that Samoa Joe below the belt heel, and I think it really works for her too. It's going to be a great move, and I'm just really impressed with Ruby Riott and how strong she has come up. Another, like I say every week, is that how deep the women's division is right now. They really don't have room for all these girls who are subpar, and Ruby Riott's still a mid-carder. She could easily be a headliner, and she's still a mid-carder. That's how deep it is right now. Really impressed. So long to Dolph Ziggler. It's just such a shame. He was doing really good with his tag team, with Drew McIntyre being the heels, being the bad guys. It's the only thing that works for Dolph Ziggler. The only thing. And here unfortunately now they made him the baby face again, and it's just not going to work again. I just feel so sorry for him. He's been up and down, and they fucked it up again. Keep him a heel. He can't be this baby face against Drew McIntyre. It's bad for both of them. They got to go in super separate directions. I just thought it was weird that they did do it this way, but the Lionheart with Ziggler never worked, and it's not going to work this time too. It's going to be even worse. And then what's he going to do? Turn on the crowd again? Terrible. I guess they have to go with Elias being a babyface too. I'm not happy about that. He doesn't make fun of the Towns anymore. It just sucks. He makes fun of his opponent, which works. At least they made a good transition of it. But it's just not the same. It just doesn't do the same thing for me. But maybe I think they're building something big up for Elias, and maybe they're making the right move with not rushing him too far to the main event, which they haven't done to him yet. And I think they're making a smart move with Elias, baby steps with him, and he could be a showstopper down the road. Great closing match though with Baron Corbin and Seth Rollins. at the end, and that was really good. They had the Heath Slater though is the referee. Ouch, that's rough. They should have made him Elias's roadie. I think they could have done that, or made him I guess making him Baron Corbin's like lackey would kind of make it too comical, because that's what Heath Slater is. But it's kind of took a serious turn with Heath Slater being the referee, because he doesn't enjoy it. He's not funny, and I think it's kind of what everyone's come to see and know of Heath Slater. It's kind of a goofball, which he plays really well. So it's kind of a weird go. I'll see how it goes out. I like how Baron Corbin's using Heath Slater as his patsy referee to throw matches. I like that move. It's just going to Corbin's whole thing about how he has been this mega heel when it comes to the abuse of power at being the GM. And maybe we'll see at TLC tonight. Maybe all of a sudden something happens with the referee and who comes out? Heath Slater's the ref. That could be interesting. Lio Rush, I don't know if that hard bump he took was meant to happen, but man, did he get whipped into the ropes. I don't think he meant to land that way, because the match basically ended right afterwards. I think he got really fucking fucked up off that. He kind of, Kelly, like he was going thrown into the turnbuckle, and I think he was trying to do something where he kind of like falls out, but he got caught up, and the way his body twisted did not look healthy. And he got hurt, really hurt in his match against Elias. But like I said earlier, good closing match for the TLC match. It almost, Corbin had the deck stacked against Rollins, and I think that's what you need to do for Rollins is they got to keep him away from his whole thing with the Shield breakup and everything. I think they just got to abandon that storyline altogether. It's just not working for me. And I thought this was a great example of how well he does work outside of the box he's got to be against the corporate guy. Maybe have him start up a new Bullet Club or some shit like that with Finn Balor. I think that could work, and it'd be a good fit for Seth Rollins. He's not the best speaker. He's not bad, but he's not the best talker. But great showing by him, and showing the Iron Man will and everything like that, winning that match. Let's talk some SmackDown. Interesting booking for Mustafa Ali versus Daniel Bryan. I was kind of a little bit weirded out by him. Like, why this 205 guy is coming up. But I always talk about switching it up. And wrestling has done it really, really well with this one here. And I like it. It's different. And it made Daniel Bryan look a little bit worse, too, as the bad guy, which they're trying to portray. And he's also getting the easy match. And just in the beginning of the match, how he's like, just walk away. Just walk away. You don't have to do this for these people and shit like that. But it was actually a really good showing for Mustafa Ali, and cool for the 205 guys to get. He's obviously their best guy, both athletically, and he's got a bit of charisma. So I'll give him that. Out of all those dudes, he's got a bit of charisma. I just think they're probably gonna have to make him a bad guy eventually, and it's just not. I don't think that's gonna be work for him. It could. I've been mistaken before when it comes to bad guy switches. A rap battle between the Usos and the Bar, though, man, oof. Usos got to stop rapping. They are terrible. I know it's like this whole spoken word thing, but that rap isn't popular. I'm sorry to say that, folks. You don't see any spoken word rap or any stuff like that on the top of the charts for a reason. It sucks, and that's what they're kind of going with. It doesn't work for the Usos. I liked the Bars rap because it was just terrible. It was like Ice Ice Baby, and it was meant to be terrible, but it was good. But the Usos got to stop rapping, seriously. I'm really not sure where they're going with The Miz and Shane McMahon. I really am very confused. The Miz, because he's so good standalone, why they're roping him in, I just don't know. I just think it brings down both of them to be paired up. Are they going for a tag title? I could have swore Shane McMahon was a tag champ or something like that. Maybe is he not a tag champ, and this is his showing to get that one belt he didn't get? I don't know. But it's odd to me. I wonder where they're moving with this. Maybe they'll have an answer for us at TLC. But it was an amazing match between Asuka and Charlotte. They really closed the show, stole the show, and closed it like those two girls can, especially with Becky Lynch getting involved in the end and Asuka kind of standing on that table. What a great symbol and a lead up to this TLC. It's, as I said weeks ago, that this is going to be the match that makes this whole event, and WWE definitely noticed that as well. And they are promoting it well. What a pose at the end to have Asuka with the kendo stick standing high above both girls knocked out. It was amazing, really amazing. Speaking of amazing, was actually Tyler Breeze versus Ricochet. Really good match in NXT, and I think it's a great move for them to move Tyler Breeze into NXT. They're kind of, I think, in the middle lull right now for talent at NXT. I think they have a ton, but I think they plan on moving a bunch of guys up. So if they lose Lars Sullivan, he was a major star, and, Aleister Black is also rumored to be moving up as well. They need maybe a few dudes to go back down. And I think Tyler Breeze, it fits perfectly for him. Obviously, he's a great in-ring. His gimmick is terrible, and I think this works because he was such a popular star in NXT. That's where he got his start. He was like the first guy to come over from like one of the by himself guys to come over in NXT. And it was only a 4-star match, though. I'm not going to give him a 5-star. I'm only giving him a 4-star match. Really good match. I'm a mega fan of Ricochet. He's easily one of my top 5 wrestlers currently right now. The guy is so amazing. I loved him as Prince Puma. And that's where I really even recognized who he was when he was Prince Puma for Lucha Underground. And now he's really taken NXT by storm. I think he's maybe a bit too small to move up to the main roster. I'm just being honest. But I think he's only the North American champ. I think he could be a long-time heavyweight champ for the NXT champ. And maybe he does move over eventually down the road. We'll see. But Ricochet is an amazing wrestler. Matt Riddle, Kelly, from UFC.
Yes.
Couldn't pass his piss tests, and he's now in NXT for good. Made his in-ring debut as the King of the Bros, Matt Riddle. That's his whole gimmick. But he looks shredded, so it's an easy fit. He is absolutely shredded. But one thing I didn't like is how he went barefoot, kind of like Von Erich style. He wrestles barefoot. And a lot of guys who wrestle barefoot end up wearing shoes. They end up getting like a bad ankle injury because you're wrestling other dudes with boots. You don't want somebody to step on your foot. That'd hurt like a son of a bitch. You know what I mean? But I thought it was odd that he is wrestling barefoot. He does win his match against Punishment Martinez, which was actually a pretty good match, actually. But they actually were a tag team in ROH. Good showing between those dudes. I think Matt Riddle has a potential of being actually quite a good star. He's got the look, he's got the swagger, and he is just shredded.
I wonder why he couldn't pass.
I think he had some kind of clause in his WWE agreement that he was allowed to smoke weed. Or else I'm not coming over. Weed or nothing. Yeah, I love smoking weed. Matt Riddle just loved the reefer. Huge news for next week is that Vince McMahon is making his return to Raw. So let's see what he's going to say. Are we going to see the shuffle? I think I swore we usually see it after Royal Rumble, but are we going to see the shuffle when it comes to the roster? We'll find out. With Vince return, who knows what's going to happen? Or maybe we see the firing of Baron Corbin or something like that. Who knows what's going to happen at TLC tonight? It's with that. Speaking of Lars Sullivan, I thought it was really weird that they are calling him up. I don't know. I'm not the hugest. I don't have anything against NXT, but I thought it was odd that of all the dudes getting called up, that he would be getting called up. He has the size. He's massive. He looks hideous too, Kelly. Like he's just this gigantic dude. He's got like his head got crushed or something like that. His head is gigantic, like all-American wrestler, and massive dude. I just don't know. He doesn't even have the mic skills, so I don't know how they're gonna work him. Maybe they're working with AOP or something like that. TLC right around tonight. TLC coming up. It's on in 1 hour from now. Great night. I'm super excited about all the matches. They have now shifted it around. So now Buddy Murphy. Oh, he's already won. Sorry to burst your bubble here if you were watching the pre-show. Buddy Murphy beat Cedric Alexander. Shocker there. Sorry, spoiler alert here if you're a real 205 Live fan. Sorry. Just so you know, no one watches this show, Kelly. And the other dark match, it's a ladder match between Elias and Bobby Lashley. That'll be good. R-Truth and Carmella versus, Jinder Mahal and Alicia Fox. They made it to the final. Holy moly, wow. They were probably the two most popular teams this year. I think it really worked with Alicia Fox and the Singh brothers. Is kind of cool, Kelly. The Singh brothers are actually from local as well, from Coquitlam. These two dudes, and they're really, really small. They made it up actually in ECCW, which I'll talk a little about later. They're quite smaller dudes though. Like they're about like 180. You know what I mean? Like 5'8", 5'9" each. So they're kind of more comic relief. But just the fact, and they're with another dude from Calgary named Jinder Mahal, who's born in Calgary. You know, these dudes are born in they're obviously, of Sikh religion, you know what I mean, and the other they obviously never met each other earlier, right? Just coincidence they're both Sikh, right? Calgary and from Coquitlam, but they're together, but they're more the comic relief. But it's good for them because they really, to even be that on that show, you're getting paid huge. You know what I mean? You're a big name. You're getting paid huge. You got tons of stuff to do. They end up getting tossed around. Those usually what happens. They get like dropped on their head, and they get like super abused. Is like the only thing that happens to them. But I think that's what's actually worked is Alicia Fox's interactions with the Singh brothers, and I think they got to keep her with the crazy Alicia Fox. Anything else doesn't really work. Maybe the mean girl Alicia Fox is okay, but it's just too easy. I think they got to go with the crazy Alicia Fox. It's the only thing that works for her. Not a fan of Alicia Fox. That's why I'm quite surprised that they made it to the final. At the end, I just wasn't really watching this mixed match challenge at the end. I didn't really like the format that they had it in with the points format. It didn't do it for me. And then at least we see Seth Rollins versus Dean Ambrose move to the middle now. It's like I said, that rivalry is absolutely terrible. Hopefully we'll see the end of that rivalry. Braun Strowman versus Baron Corbin, which I really like. It's a TLC match, and if Braun Strowman loses, he doesn't get the championship match. But if Baron Corbin wins, Baron Corbin becomes the GM. But if he loses, he gets fired as being the GM, obviously. So it's huge stipulations for both dudes. Baron Corbin wins, he gets the title shot again. Still, Baron Corbin wins, he gets to be the Raw general manager. I don't see it happening that way. How does Braun Strowman come in this quickly after surgery is what I'm clueless. And I think he's actually going to come in, and mark my words here, I haven't heard anything about this. I think he's going to come in with a sling or something. Like one arm tied behind my back. Get these hand. So we'll see how it happens with that. Ronda Rousey versus Nia Jax will be a good match too. Just a normal match. Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles for just a normal match as well. I hope we see I don't know how it's going to end. I don't think they're going to give the title up for Daniel Bryan. They're going to let him go with this fickle, his super anti, society, mega evil vegan, Kurt Cobain sweater wearing guy here. So this is what they're going to go with. So I guess they're probably, I couldn't see him losing. Maybe this gives AJ this chance to start up with a Bullet Club or some kind of group. We need to see the groups here. Hopefully that's what we see. And Finn Balor versus Drew McIntyre actually gets top billing. Wow, it's the 9th event. Wow, that's a really good showing for both those guys. I'm actually excited for that match too. Too bad it's not like it doesn't have like some like kendo on a stick match or something cool like that for TLC. And then we have the Bar versus New Day and the Usos. That's going to be a good match. Triple threat tag team. Wow, and then they give Natty versus Ruby Riott in a tables match too. Crazy. Gonna be a really good event. I don't think that's the official listing of the lineup, but still gonna be a good event. Tons and tons of guys on it. It's gonna be a good week, good night of TLC. How much closer are you on the ruckus count there, Kelly? How much countdown until you get your ruckus?
February.
February, nice. You gotta. That's a good time too. You don't want to ruckus in this weather, anyways.
No.
What's the date? February? Do you know?
I have no idea.
February is still good.
Yeah.
There you go. Do you have a color picked out too, or whatnot?
I'll just probably get a black one.
Cool. I was looking up prices on them this week, and there's this dude who's got this one out, and it's like super customized, like lowered and stretched out. He wants like $4,900 for it, but it looks like super super nice. So like it's very professional. Like it's like a super pimp like lowrider, a little lowrider with like the big fat wheels on the back. You know what I mean? I wouldn't spend that much on it though, but you know what I mean. Obviously, that guy's he's obviously paid a lot for it, and he's expecting to get something out of it, I guess. They're like cool ass rides though, man. Super cool ass rides.
Yeah, you can get a brand new one for $3,500, so it's not worth, unless you can mod it yourself pretty easily too.
Exactly. No, exactly. It was a pretty heavy modification, but still, at that price, it's a good little ride. Good little ride. Honda people, send us a ruckus. Test it out, review it for you guys, and we'll make our Instagram videos, something like that. Anything else you want to talk about this week, Kelly?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, what a week. What a week of wrestling, MMA, all of the above, with TLC on tonight and our year-end show coming up. Everything that entails, year-end and new podcast. Will be the and old podcast soon next year. Oh, shit. Wrapping up show number 15. Wowzer, dude. 15. How the hell did we make it this far? Still going strong, getting stronger every day with our fucking organic evolution of this show. Well, folks, on behalf of producer extraordinaire Kelly, my name is Steven, signing off from the new podcast. Take care.